Leo has been swallowing all my recordings of Russian music. He's so interested. And I send him some every day. So we have been with Ashwapati in his experiences of the highest realms of consciousness, pouring into him in tremendous force. And we even read that at times, occasionally, he was not able to hold it. He could hold it for a little while, and then it would go. But no longer now, because now earth grew too narrow for his victory. Once only, registering the heavy tread of a blind power on human littleness, life now became a sure approach to God. Existence, a divine experiment, and cosmos, the soul's opportunity. We spent a lot of time in the past 2 weeks with this fellow, Mark Auburn, who has had 10,000 out-of-body experiences and has detailed them in a book that was in French, and we had it translated into English. And he has met these extraterrestrials, spoken with them, been with them, and he's able to recall many, many of his previous births in detail. But he didn't believe anything of Sri Aurobindo or man. He said, no, humanity's finished. And now, slowly, he's getting a feeling from Sri Aurobindo that you have to open up more. You can have all these great experiences, but if you don't have a context or a place to keep them, what use are they? And if you can't detail what place you had that experience, he just goes out like that, and then he goes anywhere, and he meets all these great beings, the gods also, he said. But here, Sri Aurobindo is giving us, in his own words, through Ashwapati, how he received everything and what he did with it. And so, after we finish Book 1, Canto 4, we're going to go back to Ashwapati, being the realized sage now, the avatar, and we'll see what he does. So let's go through these lines now. When we register something, it is not a recording or anything. It's not something written down or recorded. You see, there are so many different definitions of registering. Who can give me a definition? Registering, a definition.
So making record of?
To an extent, yes. Yes. Anybody else?
Knowing.
Yes, it's knowing also, but it's becoming aware of. Once only becoming aware of the heavy tread of a blind power on human littleness. Now, there are a few things about power that I should share with you. One from the mother, who says the most usual form of power is control over things, person, events, forces. Wow. Well, Sri Aurobindo tells us that power means strength and force, Shakti, which enables one to face all that can happen and to stand and overcome. Also to carry out what the divine will proposes. It can include many things: power over men, events, circumstances, means, etc. But all this not of the mental or vital kind, but by an action through unity of consciousness with the divine, and with things, and with all things and beings. It is not an individual strength depending on certain personal capacities. This is very important now. But the divine power using the individual as an instrument. Wow. Life now became a sure approach to God. Existence, a divine experiment. And cosmos, the soul's opportunity. You know, Mother tells us, I've been to all these worlds. She's traveled to all these worlds. Now, there's supposed to be 12 planets. We've only found 10 so far. And Sri Aurobindo tells us that there will be 12. And 12 is his number also. So everything in the creation is based on 12. Perfection. The world was a conception and a birth of spirit in matter into living forms. I think I should stop there a moment. There's a lot to cover here. This conception is an origin or a beginning. It's the act of a concept, a plan, a design, an idea. The world was a conception and a birth of spirit in matter into living forms. And we've heard so many times that out of the formless, form comes. And only because it's possible through the formless that form can happen. In other words, manifestation. We're born, matter comes, animals come, insects come, the whole creation comes through the power of the divine Shakti. And the Purusha, Ishvara, stands back, gives her all the support she needs for her creation. But we have learned that the divine Shakti, when she descends into nature, makes a lot of errors. So she makes dinosaurs, and then she gets rid of them and makes other animals. And now I am seeing, personally, a tremendous advance in flowers. New flowers all over the world. And flowers that never could bloom in this climate are now blooming. The hydrangea, impossible. It's a temperate climate plant. It's blooming in Machamandia. And it bloomed for many months this year. And there are many other plants like that that are blooming that we said it could never happen. There's one called static beauty, the camellia. It loves cold climates, it likes a big freeze, and it's blooming here. Well, very shyly, but it shows us that the supermental force is so active and the plants are so receptive that it's happening. Sorry, get back to Savitri. A spirit in matter into living forms. And what is this spirit? In a letter on yoga, Sri Aurobindo says, the spirit is the consciousness above mind, the Atman or self, which is always in oneness with the divine. Then in the essays on the Gita, here's what he shares. What we mean by spirit is self-existent being with an infinite power of consciousness and unconditioned delight in its being. And here's where Ananda comes in, you see. And Sri Aurobindo tells us that the world was created for Ananda. And now we see the mess that we're in. That's just because the supramental's throwing up everything to be purified, transformed, changed. Yes. No problem. Okay. Spirit is the soul and reality of that which we sense as matter. Matter is a form and body of that which we realize as spirit. Sri Aurobindo does not put matter down at all. It's a process of creation. Spirit is the crown of universal existence. Matter is its basis. Mind is the link between the two. Spirit is that which is eternal. Mind and matter are its workings. Spirit is that which is concealed and has to be revealed. Mind and body are the means by which it seeks to reveal itself. How beautiful. That's from the Synthesis of Yoga. Then in the Life Divine, one last one, it's so important. Spirit is a final evolutionary emergence because it is the original involutionary element and factor. And in my conversations with Madhav Pandit, he would tell me, you see, there can be no evolution without an involution. And this is what Sri Aurobindo is talking about, the original involutionary element. So the divine comes down, reducing himself in power and force and wideness, and yet he's still the divine. And he brings this creation into being. And fortunately, we are here now. And there's no greater blessing than to be here at this time in this world creating event of the supramental. We should be very, very grateful. Then he tells us a little bit about matter, and I have so much, but I only want to give you a little bit. Matter is by no means fundamentally real. It is a structure of energy. Science is in agreement now. In Essays in Philosophy and Yoga, he says matter is only so much mobile energy vibrating intensely into form. And that's how we know that this couch is simply matter, the chair is simply matter, taking a form. So, I go back to the lines of Savitri, which are way up here. Of spirit in matter into living forms, and nature bore the immortal in her womb. Well, we've talked about nature so often. Nothing but the will of God in action. That she might climb through him to eternal life. Now, Ashwapati again. His being lay down in bright, immobile peace, and bathed in wells of pure spiritual light. It wandered in wide fields of wisdom self, lit by the rays of an everlasting sun. Now we know that this sun that we see is not truly the sun that Sri Aurobindo is talking about. We have the line in Savitri, Virat, who builds his campfires in the sun. Wow. Yes, incredible line. So we see that nature wants to climb to an eternal life. Ashwapati's being laid down in bright, immobile peace and bathed in wells of pure spiritual light. It wandered in wide fields of wisdom self, hyphenated word, very important, wisdom self, lit by the rays of an everlasting sun. Even his body's subtle self within could raise the earthly parts towards higher things and feel on it the breath of heavenlier air. In his very challenging 2 books, he explains all of these things that he had to go through, raising the earthly parts towards higher things. It's called The Record of Yoga. Has anyone read it?
Yes.
You read it? Wow. Excellent. I'm not ready yet. Already it journeyed towards divinity, upbuoyed upon winged winds of rapid joy, upheld to a light it could not always hold. So we'll go through that a little bit. He wants to raise the earthly parts towards higher things. And for 23 years after his putting his body in the earth, Mother did only that. She worked on the transformation of the cells. And there's an excellent book, The Mind of the Cells, if you can read it one day. Not so easy to find anymore. But has anyone read it? You've read it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's an incredible book. Mainly to Satprem. She's said all of these things.
Is it close to Adventure of Conscious?
No, it's completely different.
What is the name?
Mind of the Self.
Mind of the Cells. So already it journeyed towards divinity. Upbuoyed, that means sustained, lifted up. Upbuoyed upon winged winds of rapid joy, upheld to a light it could not always hold. So I have to quote again for you, light. It's so important that we understand this, not conception of light, but understand the truth of light. In the Life Divine, Sri Aurobindo says, light is primarily a spiritual manifestation of the divine reality, illuminative and creative. Material light is a subsequent representation or conversion of it into matter for the purposes of the material energy. Then he will tell us in the hour of God, our sense, by its incapacity, has invented darkness. In truth, there is nothing but light. Only It is the power of light, either above or below our poor human vision's limited range. For do not imagine that light is created by the suns. The suns are only physical concentrations of light, but the splendor they concentrate for us is self-born, important word, self-born and everywhere. God is everywhere, and wherever God is, there is light. So we may not be able to see that light in the darkness, but it's there. The darkness is such a small thing compared to the light. Look at the hawk, who can see miles and miles, a small little creature on the earth. See, these are powers that we will all get with the supramental. It's natural. It's going to be. Now, Mother wrote to my friend Dmitri von Mohrenschildt the following, and I have her handwritten note. The light is everywhere. The force is everywhere. And the world is so small. So, now I have to get to the next page here. Let's see. Got to get to 40. Oh, no, I messed up. Need your help, my friend. So I'm here, Savitri studies. Yeah, that's what I always forget. And then I get up in the 600s. That's not very good. Should be a way to get there more easily. Anyway, here we are. 40, 44, 45?
No,
44. Okay, here we are. It left mind's distance from the truth supreme and lost life's incapacity for bliss. Now this is very, very interesting, because an incapacity is a lack of ability to receive something. So it has to leave this distance of the mind from the truth supreme, because it has to lose life's incapacity for bliss. So now we have a long passage, and I won't say too much for a little while. All now suppressed in us began to emerge. Thus came his soul's release from ignorance, his mind and body's first spiritual change. A wide God knowledge poured down from above, a new world knowledge broadened from within. His daily thoughts looked up to the true and one. His commonest doings welled from an inner light. So the word welled here is rather interesting, because it's something that provides a continuous supply. It gushes up, springs up like water from the earth or from any other source. And usually we use the term welled up. Oh, the tears welled up in him. But here he's not using up. His commonest doings welled from an inner light. And light, of course, is again capitalized. So why does Sri Aurobindo use all now suppressed in us began to emerge? Because we are the divine, and we have suppressed him within ourselves, within our small habits, our desires, our education, our environment, our friends. But for Ashwapati, there came his soul's release from ignorance. And this is the first spiritual change, his mind and body's first spiritual change. So now what happens? This wide God knowledge pours down from above. The new world knowledge broadened from within. His daily thoughts looked up to the true and one. Just a little aside, but when I was in college, I had a teacher of photography. And he said, I want you to go out tomorrow and do a second story story. Because we all look at the ground all the time. And we don't see what's in these upper stories. And it was a good challenge to us all. So, awakened to the lines that nature hides, attuned to her movements that exceed our ken. So when something is attuned, it's brought into an accord, a harmony, a sympathetic relationship. Attuned to her movements, nature's movements, that exceed our ken. Our ken here is the range of knowledge or perception, our understanding. He grew one with the covert universe. This word covert, English pronunciation. American would be covert. So covert universe. It's a secret or a hidden universe. We can't see it. We can't quite know it yet. And therefore it's concealed, hidden. He grew one with a covert universe. His grasp surprised her mightiest energy springs. He spoke with the unknown guardians of the worlds. And I have a lot to tell you about that. Forms he descried, our mortal eyes see not. So first of all, Alok has said the great gods are the guardians of the world. And they govern the worlds from above. These higher powers and beings are unknown to man, and yet without them, the world could not be. Now, Amal has a very similar understanding. The subtle powers behind the surface reality were met by him, Ashwapati, because of the inner and higher consciousness he acquired, a consciousness by which he was open to a God knowledge and a world knowledge coming to him from above and within. And lastly, there's quite a long few sentences by Madhav Pandit. This creation is an ordered manifestation of the divine. Now, this is something that we don't often realize, but everything is perfectly ordered here. And when you read Mother, she says everything's in its place just as it should be. So, this, Madhav says, this creation is an ordered manifestation of the divine. There is a central will expressing the originating truth vision, impelling the whole movement, but also there are special emanations from the divine charged with specific tasks in the organization and maintenance of the emerging creation. These are the gods and goddesses, deities, powers and personalities that are in charge of their respective domains on different levels of existence. Each world has its own guardians entrusted by the Supreme Creative Spirit with the work of building and furthering the manifestation of the particular truth principle that pushes for expression in that world formula. You know, there's a section in Savitri, it's just a line or two, where Sri Aurobindo tells us that there are two guardians on either side of us, walking with us every day and protecting us. And I have not found that searching for it. I haven't done serious search, but it's so interesting to me that these gods and goddesses are so much with us. So, forms he descried, our mortal eyes see not. So, to descry something is to see it, to discern it carefully, to perceive it, to detect it. And I think my time is up. Are there any questions?
Could we finish?
Could we finish?
So close.
Oh. No, there's a full stop after not. Sorry. I know you, Ronnie. Yeah, I think that's good for tonight. Thank you.
Could you just mention this birth of the immortal? You see, just back we had the womb, and we had nature bore the immortal in her womb.
Yeah.
So how would that work?
It's the divine presence that she's bearing in her womb, and she's creating. So she's the mother.
Yeah.
And so she's bearing the immortal, the divine presence in her womb. Her womb is the whole world.
But the immortal always was, so it's coming into manifestation.
Yes,
what
exactly.
Already always was and always will be.
Yes, but it has not always been humanity.
Oh.
No. We've had so many pralayas. We had beings that were far more advanced than us that have disappeared. Lemuria. And, many other civilizations that were perhaps much more occult on this earth, and they disappeared.
Yeah, but they disappear materially, but they don't disappear because everything always was and always will be. I mean, if we're in this immortal consciousness, how do we reconcile the matter coming into time and...
Yeah. The mother uses the word pralaya, and that's our answer. So there have been 6 times that the earth has been destroyed, basically. And Mother told us there will be no 7th pralaya because of the supramental. So we're here for good, and we have to be transformed. And transform ourselves. Not quite so easy, but what a marvelous adventure. It's so beautiful.